I went to Alabama. It was the 27th of January, 1986, my first time ever in America. Bill was building a new vacuum processing plant for Aberdeen. So I would go and help him build it, learn how to use it, come back to Aberdeen and work it in Aberdeen. I flew Aberdeen to London, London to Atlanta, then a small plane from Atlanta to Dothan. But I was in Atlanta for an hour and it was freezing cold. It's because they don't need much heating in Atlanta airfield. So on the occasions when it's cold, well, you just have to suffer it. But unfortunately, that was the day before the shuttle blew up, with partly because of the O-rings being so cold and not working so well. Nobody knew how long I was going to be there for, but I ended up there for 12 weeks in total, I think, which is fine by me. It was good, and a great experience. Well, they gave me a hire car, and driving on the right-hand side of the road I found very difficult. And you had to be on the ball all the time and constantly thinking, where am I? I'm in the right lane, am I turning right or left, etc., etc. And that was difficult. But I got the hang of it. The food was very much Southern style. You didn't eat turnips, but you'd eat the green shoot from the turnip. For one thing. But the food was different. There was a lot of fried, there was a lot of stuff in breadcrumbs and then fried. But I loved it. It was all, I didn't have to cook. Because I was there working for Bill and I was basically free labour, he would send me to the hardware store to get things because he was building this one off. He couldn't order it off the shelf, so we're building it up as we went along. So when he needed attachments that you could get locally, I'd get to go to the hardware store. So I'd walk into the hardware store. I'm needing this. I'm needing that. And they look at you. That was the accent, obviously, that gave it away. So, where are you from? What are you doing? It got to the stage where if people didn't say, where are you from, I would get upset. What's wrong with you? But anyway, but the first week or two, it was strange because we've all heard about America, and of course, usually you hear about the worst about it. But I didn't have any troubles. Bill had two guys working for him, a black guy and a white guy. And I got on great with the black guy. I think because we could have a conversation and we could actually have a wee joke about things. And there was no, you couldn't do that with an American, or you probably couldn't do that with an American white guy, but because I was a neutral, if that's the right word, an independent, an outsider, we had a few laughs together. Frank Ross was his name. So I think that maybe says something about his great-great-great-great-grandfather. At work, you didn't really notice it because even into the restaurant, there was black guys, white guys. But I think after work, people would tend to go their own way home. But no, I wouldn't say it was badly racist, but there's probably an undercurrent of it, but I wouldn't have noticed. I've kept in touch with a family there, so I've been back at least 4 times to visit them. And when I stop at the Alabama Welcome Centre, I go in and I say, "It's great to be back home." Who's that guy? I'll say Dothan is in the bottom right-hand corner of Alabama, and they just never get tourists. The Americans don't go there. So I was a bit of a novelty. And that's when people would say, oh, where are you from? The only tourists they ever got were Canadians going south for the winter or going back north.
Right.
Because Dothan was actually quite close to the Florida line, the state line. And it wasn't that far from the Gulf of Mexico. No, yep. The Caribbean. Wasn't far from the Caribbean. And Bill's father-in-law had a beach house, one of the last beach houses on an undeveloped part of the coastline. And Bill's son and I went down at Easter for a weekend. And it was cold. And the sun was almost overhead, and I couldn't believe, why is it so cold when the sun's so high above?
Yeah.
But the wind was blowing down from Canada. Now, 3 or 4 weeks later, Bill said, did I want to go down to the beach house again? Oh, yes, on Mond. And he told me I'd get the keys at such and such a hotel. Now, when I drove down and I found the hotel about 11 o'clock at night, and I walked in, or 10, let's say 10 o'clock at night, and I walked in, I said, but outside it said the such and such motel. And I walked in and I said, is this the blah, blah, blah hotel? Oh, you must be Bill's friend. Here's the keys to his house.
No problem.
I must have been on his face.
Well, there's no doubt about that, Uncle Jim.
So, but don't. Yeah, I love my time in Dothan. So once I get more confident, at first you're a wee bit quiet and you're not quite sure how to behave. But once I get more confident and got to speak to more people, that was great.